Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Monday, April 20th. If you heard me coughing at the beginning of the stream, I don't think I have COVID-19 yet, but yeah, and honestly I'm, as much as anyone, trying my best not to get it. But yeah, definitely do feel slightly congested as is typical, uh, depending on the pollen stats. Alright, so we have a green and a white, and then attack 30 creatures. And I hate to re-roll a green and a white when we have this white overlap. But if I re-roll this, and then I got something like a red and a black, that would just make it worse. So I'm going to re-roll this, because I don't want to particularly play a blue. And that seemed to work fairly well. Although these rerolls compared to Hearthstone are still kind of garbage because your odds of getting a 750 quest are pretty low. On Saturday, on Friday, I got 14 victories. On Saturday, I got 15 victories. On Sunday, I don't think I played at all. But you can see we are quite far in the new Ikra expansion. 3 hours from now, this new workshop will happen, and we would get another Haversack of Favor, which apparently just means nothing or anything. Let's see, is there anything else? There's this Premier Draft that probably wouldn't be a terrible idea to do. But let's jump into this. We're already up to level 6. And we have 2 levels of mastery, so how does this all break down? Are we starting on the outside? I guess we are. So let's just start on black, and then this is kind of like the layout of the original mastery set. So we'll just go in kind of a counterclockwise motion. Black and white, and then red, blue, and green. And then we'll start doing, I guess, the combo cards, because I imagine the combo cards are more important. And I guess if we did the combo cards exactly right, we could kind of jump a couple of steps here. Unless there's something more to this. Like, it almost seems like in this instance you have to have all 5 of these, but you still could get this combo card. Well, right now, next one we could get this combo card, and I guess we'll try this. We'll get this. And then we would have to get this, which probably requires getting this, so that we could then get this. But after that point, then a point there is as far as you would need to go to potentially unlock that. And these are all just skins, so none of it really matters at all. Let's see. We've got... The store has been updated now, so they're giving away these daily deals, and so 5,000 gems for 500 gems for 200 gold. I think that's kind of a guaranteed reward, so I think that's smart. Yeah. Or you could just spend 400 gems to get 500 gems, and then that would be even better, I guess. This is a weird offer. This is a very weird offer. 400 gems to get you 500 gems is, at the very least, even if you didn't want to spend any gold at all, you can get a 100 extra gems. But I'm gonna spend gold because that gets us up to 900. That gets us up to 1,000. So we're already making good progress towards potentially being able to buy the mastery in the core set, which I don't even know if you really need to do. I kind of wish I was rolling in gems so I could buy this and get all of the skins from the Godzilla cards, but I don't think that really matters. And if I really cared, I think there probably are some other style skins in this we could get. So yeah, I'm not super impressed with that. We also got a new avatar by getting the mastery set. So it seems like every new expansion gives you one new avatar that is like missable, and I couldn't care less about the pets. We only have one Ikra pack. There was something that occurred to me as far as using all of our common and uncommon wild cards, which will refill those fairly quickly, is I probably should have used those more for getting common and uncommon cards that were in previous expansions. So here's the cards I got between the last stream and now. So like, because I think if we would look and just see things that we have 1, 2, or 3 of, and we include all historic things, excluding even core set 2019, yeah, there's apparently still some to get. Let's see. Not standard and legal. Probably not. Probably don't want to do this right now. And things like ops have definitely been reprinted. And I wouldn't be surprised if most, if not all of these have definitely been reprinted. But if I was trying to get a full collection, this is what I would want. Let's see what the difference is if we did include the core 2019. No, nope, that really is a small, just insignificant number of cards. And even the mystic and the rare ones, like, it really wouldn't be too hard to get at least one copy of these, or 2 copies, or 3 copies, or 4 copies. So there is an argument that what I did really wouldn't have affected anything for my collection, because clearly I've filled in the holes anyways. Let's see. This is a sealed thing, which I wouldn't want to spend gems on. And this is 10,000 for the premiere draft with real people. Do we want to do a premiere draft right now? Because that is going to pretty much run out all of our money if we do it on this Monday. Or do we want to wait till Wednesday? I'm feeling good. I think we're in a good position. Let's do this. It'll be interesting to see if untapped.gg, which now has buttons over here that pop up its overlay. I'm sure you can't see those. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if untapped.gg works and how well it works with the people draft and that time thing. So yeah, first things first, we're going to do one more draft. We did very well in the first draft, and so getting people when they don't know really how to play these cards, getting them early makes a lot of sense. If we can even get 3 wins, which is what I think we got before, we get another 1,000 gems. That would put us very nicely up here. If I just start getting really lucky with Ikra, and hopefully the expansion is going past Ikra, we could start actually having a decent free-to-play experiences instead of having a pretty bad free-to-play experience. So yeah, plus we get these skins every time we do this. So I'm gonna put myself as ready, and we'll just double check my streaming software to make sure we're streaming, and yeah, we are good. So rare drafting is what we're looking for, and it seems like our overlay doesn't allow for that, so I'm going to just have to take the best cards. It's not really much of a problem though to just take the best cards you can get, because we now know the order in which these cards appear and how that works. This also is not a bad card at all. With the cycling ability and the ability to put on this. One thing about these lands in particular that make them so broken, and I think a lot of cards in this new expansion are broken, which makes them fun, is this is labeled as a land. Islands, mountains, plains. It's not labeled as a non-basic land. So there's a lot of cards out there that say get a basic land and put it on the field. This counts. That's pretty insane. I'm going to take that just because of rare drafting. I'm just going to take the best, the most mythic rares and rares. First and foremost, and if I lose, I still win. But then you're playing against, from what I can tell, you're not playing against the same people. So what we would want to do is, let's look at these names. There's me, Rydo, Pepe Fabio, Paul Yak 2, R3 Tail, Red Tail, the Streambox, Manami Yuki, Neo Magic 12, and Gillinder. So those are who we are going to be looking for as far as names when we play. If we play anybody that doesn't have a name like those, then we know we're not playing against the people we're drafting, which means they could do a draft and get a whole bunch better cards than me and beat me because of that, or they could do a draft and get way worse cards and never even have had the opportunity to get better cards than me. And as far as the draft goes, he doesn't. Pepe Fabio seems like he is potentially going to get kicked. And I wonder how they've programmed that, because he's just not moving at all. And he's getting all the packs handed to him. So do we want this card just because it's a uncommon? Or do we want to start thinking about something else? Like special lands. Like, honestly, I'm gonna take this special land, and I'm gonna still try to go for rarity, and I definitely don't want basic lands. Well, this is labeled as a basic land, so maybe they have done something different, or maybe it was a different land than I mentioned that I'm thinking about. But there definitely is at least one card in Ikra that is labeled like a basic land for some reason, and you'd think that would be completely game breaking. It definitely feels completely game breaking. Whenever you cycle another card, gain life. I kind of think I want to just grab these lands later on. Let's build up our deck, though. Need some reds too if I'm actually going to play that, but I'm not sure I'm actually going to play that. Let's see, this would be black or blue, so I think that works still. This is the green. And we can go and drag things we're not going to really play. I think Bastion of Remembrance is an amazingly good card. And then I also watched a YouTube video talking about this book and the story that was added, written in addendum to this. Seems like there's always a book and story added in addendum to the new expansions, and it seems like it's mostly centered around one guy, and they're in this land where it's full of monsters, and they send out military people to fight the monsters. This guy gets accused of working with the monsters, and for that reason, do I want this same? This is different. These Triumph cards are different. So now we're going the opposite direction, and it's still the same people though. Like, the draft didn't change on the second round. That would have been weird if it did that. Enchanted Land has target creature gains trample and haste. Interesting. I'm gonna take this one, I guess. I think the mixed colored cards probably do serve a more interesting option. But I don't want to buy two of anything until we can get something better. The danger now of doing these premium and having the untap.gg not really tell you what cards you have is that you will potentially be wasting a lot of picks here to get things that you don't really want. Let's see. Do we want that, or are we gonna go with a land? These lands actually, I don't think, help me any. It's just gonna come down to whether we want to take a black or a white card. Probably doesn't hurt to take a card like this. And still really no reason to be getting those cards. I don't know why they threw those in. That seems really weird. Is that they're throwing in basic lands into the drafts. And that definitely changes my opinion of drafts a little bit for the worse. The idea that you could buy a draft pack and get rather screwed by being forced to take even 2 or 3 basic cards. Basic land cards, when most of the time stores would have given you a basic land cards for free, and other players will give you basic land cards for free, unless you just have to have Ikra basic lands. But in the format of Magic Arena in particular, getting basic lands is also kind of free. Oops. That guy auto-selected because I ran out of time, or the card did. It would be nice if there was a little bit better way this was being depicted. It's somewhat being depicted well, but not as well as I would have liked. And see, this is where it sucks. It's like, why get that basic land Why is that even an option? I almost would hope that in Magic Arena's case, if you're getting basic lands, instead they're giving you some kind of wild card, a common wild card in exchange. Otherwise, you're just getting shortchanged. And there's really not a choice when drafting what you really get to pick. That's obviously the right choice in that case. Because if you're left with only one thing to get, you've got to take it. Let's see. Again, I'm just going to take the highest cards we can get. This one, I don't think we'll be playing. I've kind of figured out what companions do a little bit more. They are if your deck meets the requirements of the companions, you can play it from your sideboard. I think most of the time almost like a commander, but not quite, which kind of drastically changes the game. But it also is really cool idea. I can't hate on it. And it seems like the cost to the deck requirements often require you to have so many cards in your deck that you're going to lose because of the disadvantage of that compared to the advantage of being able to play a companion. I guess at this point we'll just take common cards or things that will bolster our deck. Let's see. That's probably not a terrible card. I should keep an eye out for other lands though. If we might as well get the lands cheaply. The idea of putting a lively counter on things also has changed that experience somewhat, because the idea of having different counters in Magic is not an idea that I had thought of before then. So almost usually you use just like glass beads for a counter in Magic, or at least that's what I've seen. And so the idea that now the different colors of the different plastic glass beads would potentially be an indicator of another basic land. If glass beads became a potential indicator of something else, then that of something else than just a +1/+1, because that's what counters in my mind have always been before that point. So we're gonna just play a black-white deck, and that pretty much means we don't need this, and this can cycle for 3, and this could cycle for 3, or it just gives you the opportunity to have some red. Could do that and then bring back something that requires a red. This very late game card, and this, and this. And so does that work? Somewhat. Let's get rid of this one. I'm going to put some game enders on this. At the beginning of your turn, you exile a target red, white, or black card from your graveyard, create a token. I'm not going to keep that one. So when mutates, whenever a creature mutates, gains 4 life. That sounds interesting. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card in your library. You may put the card in your graveyard. Exile a card from your graveyard. Add colorless mana. Spend that mana on a colored spell without X in its mana cost. That's not necessary for me. That seems like that's a really complicated spell. This crystal costs 3 mana or 2 to cycle, so I'm going to get rid of that and that, and I think we're done. There was a much quicker draft than before. Let's just see if we can actually win with it. We didn't even really look at the majority of the cards. Who are we playing? We're playing a character named Cody K, not one of the persons we drafted with. Alright. So we have black, 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 black. I could play this tapped and it would give me no black. So this is a mulligan. And then we have white, white, and this will work somewhat. Meanwhile, I'm gonna guess get rid of one of those. I don't think I'm terribly low on land. There is a problem now with this back. The fact that you can click on things and they react on this playfield and only this playfield. It kind of means that they're going to have this first generation of playfields that Magic Arena had, and that first generation of playfields are going to just this is not a card I could play. Interesting. So I'll have to wait 2 more turns. And going forward, I guess they will just have a second generation of playfields that are interactable. Here we go. We're ready to start playing. What does this do? Enchant creature gets +1 as long as the enchanted creature has vigilance. It assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. How could you give this character vigilance though? You can't. Interesting. So we've got a decent amount of news since there were things left over. I did kind of curate games from Friday, but not a lot. There isn't any major like actual news that happened, but there was some stuff certainly. Let's go ahead and play this. And I don't think we can play 2 lands, so that must mean something else. Put that on the field. This doesn't have vigilance either. And so this guy will attack and give this one a buff, which is nice. And this one seems like it will just give us a buff in general. And we can just play these lands now. So yeah, we'll spend most of this stream just going through the video games that came out on Steam, and I don't think there's anything more that really needs to be said about it. It's interesting, kind of in the mythos and the backstory of this, the idea that triomes exist in Ikra, and they are lands that have that generate 3 different kinds of mana at the same point, and that very well might be the reason why so many of these monsters exist, is that this is a land of a mutated, merged magic, where all the other multi-dimensions of the Dungeons and Dragons / magic the Gathering universe are almost Star Wars-esque in the fact that they are usually only one type of mana that they generate. Converted cost of 2 or less. Okay. Can we do that? Yep. What does this do? Whenever you cycle a card, you may have Eruption Reflection become a 5/4 dinosaur with trample. Interesting. Let's see. What is this one's ability? Equal to the creature's toughness and draw a card. So theoretically I could pump this guy up, have him attack, and then not attack with this guy and tap him and sacrifice this guy for like 4 if I needed 4 health. I don't think we need that though. I think we pretty much got a victory. And our in-game strategy, it's not worth it. It totally isn't. We do need to play white cards, so I'll probably do that. But there isn't really a reason to. This is interesting. Now they're using this gold to indicate you can't do something. Yeah. You might start to be able to actually play Magic without knowing exactly what's going on with your cards, which has been a problem in the past where so many modifiers can happen that things can get weird. Why this one can't tap, but this one can, I don't know. I guess maybe you just can't tap a creature or activate their ability if they have summoning sickness. Didn't realize that was a factor in that. I thought you just couldn't attack if they had summoning sickness. Let's see. Put this on the field as a white card. Play that. Might as well. Attack. Interesting. This is a creature, but if I sacrifice this creature, later he'll become a 1/1 human soldier, and then he would benefit from this guy's ability. This is an instant, or this is a flash? Let's just play it and see how this goes. See if he decides to block or not. He's gotta block or something. So what is this guy? Whenever a bastion enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 soldier token. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Ooh, so this should synergize quite nicely. Yep. I feel like I have a better understanding of these Ikra cards. Throne of Eldraine didn't really make a lot of sense. Interesting attempt, but it's gonna be a failed attempt, certainly. Just go ahead and powerhouse this, and even if it didn't work, it wouldn't matter. Throne of Eldraine, Theros Beyond Death, those expansions didn't really make as much sense. I assume this is the main character of the Icarus story. Or at least one of them. It seems like there aren't a lot of Gatewatch type characters in the Icarus story, or planeswalkers that are well known also. So I don't know if Magic and Wizards of the Coast are just finally done with the Gatewatch and the previously established planeswalkers fighting Nicola Bolas for a decent amount of time, or if the next year is just going to be all back to Gatewatch stuff. This is a lot of land. Let's see. I kind of want to keep this, so I'm gonna get rid of this. Like, having this on first draw does seem like the right move. Playing that first turn in this instance is the right move. I guess we'll start going through the news here. I've been trying to push towards that, but I haven't made any progress. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands, which this may be an amazingly good card. Way more than you think. Like, from what I have heard is that this card just shuts down several strategies of players. So probably not a bad idea to not put him out as the first character in case they decide to do something crazy there. And no attack. This one is gonna kill me though, so I need something fairly quickly. So I have 3 whites, or I have 2 blacks, 1 white. So I'd need 1 more white card. Can I mutate? Can I mutate this on something? Creature human clerk, creature human wizard, creature human soldier. I can't mutate, but I need to put him on the field regardless, and he'll be something we need to put on. We need to attack with. I guess you are gonna have to pick and choose with the Ikora cards between humans and monsters. That does seem like that is the split. I need either 1 more black or 1 more white planes and play this, and then I can play this, and that would kill everything except for non-land, except for his land, which, yeah, that could be a game winner. We've got it. Like, next turn we just do this. Do we wait or do we play this though? Is there a reason to play? No, I think we kill that because he'll totally kill us if we don't get rid of it. Hopefully that's just a choice he'll make to surrender after such a devastating turn of events. None of these have lifelink. Um, and he wrecked me. Interesting. Well, put that on the field, I guess. And there's kind of no reason to even hold on to this, but there's also kind of no reason to even play it. So we might as well play it. Non-combat damage would be stealth to this character. Prevent the damage and put a 1/1 counter on him for each damage prevented this way, which is interesting. But I'd almost have to do damage to it myself. This would be a good card to play with a white-red deck. This could attack, but yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can do with it. This can't be blocked with anything with a power of 2 or less, so those 2 cards are also useless, so I might as well have attacked. No easy victory that time. But we still have 2 more choices. Alright, let's start going. We have a game on Steam here called Space Vanguard. This looks like, to me, like a Chinese made... It kind of looks like Scribblenuts, I think is the name of that game, where you type in things and they just appear in the game. It looks like that art style. I don't think it actually plays like that way. I think it's just kind of a MS Paint 2D looking RPG game, for lack of a better descriptor. It's 99 cents English and Chinese, so yeah. There needs to be a question made. This is probably a terrible deck starting hand, so I'm not gonna play it. Just for some variety's sake, for lack of a better choice. It'll be interesting to see where the Chinese government lands as far as companies selling products on Steam. Chinese companies selling products on Steam, if they're actively forbidding people from playing with people out, Chinese citizens from playing with people outside of China, then the idea that there was this secondary market, this kind of secret, I don't want to say deep web, but outside of the Great Chinese Firewall concept, this secret market that was not officially allowed, where Chinese people would go to Steams through a VPN and buy Chinese games. I wouldn't be certain that there isn't going to be a crackdown on that, and so we may start to see a complete reduction of Chinese games on Steam, which would probably be a good thing, because most of the games that have come out on Steam have been really terrible, cheap Chinese games, and clearly they're not in a position with their totalitarian government to do anything to grow as a industry as far as video game development. It's just not going to happen. They're a lost cause for probably a generation, or at least until the people in charge are no longer in charge. So opening the doors to people to the Chinese market is yeah, I want to be careful to say the Chinese market, not the people. That's not what I meant. But opening the doors to the Chinese market is the equivalent of giving a mansion to a homeless person. Just they're not capable of maintaining and upkeeping a mansion. You could give certainly a a apartment to a homeless person, then they should be fine handling that small square footage thing. But if you're it's just not what's, I don't know if that's a stretched metaphor or not, honestly. Yeah, it's just kind of a lost cause otherwise. I welcome, I suppose, Chinese developers to leave China and develop their games in other countries. So if they want to go to, say, the West or Taiwan or Hong Kong or some other country that they would possibly be capable of living in and working in, that's the only way it's going to really work for them. And we never got to a point where there was actually even a single AAA good Chinese made game. Like, that just hasn't happened. And so the whole situation is a lot like the promise of the Chinese market and money and Hollywood, where Hollywood never really did make as much money as they wanted to or thought they would by pandering to the Chinese market in movies, and they definitely hurt themselves and sacrificed their morals, if as a corporation, if they ever claim to have any, by pandering to that one market. Moving on, TechCraft has an article, Magic the Gathering Contest lets you design your own cards and more. This is out there if you're interested. I don't know if there's anything you could get out of here. It's apparently supporting Make-A-Wish Foundation. So one of the previous sales of Magic cards was also saying that they were going to donate cards to some foundation. But the fact that every single special Magic thing that's on sale is usually overpriced and not worth it, including the latest secret, what is it called, secret boxes or secret Unleashed Fetchlands reprintings. Like, those are way overpriced from what I hear. So I don't know how you can honestly try to support any kind of charity through Wizards of the Coast when Wizards of the Coast is the one that's really getting that tax write-off, and they're charging you a premium. If you want to support Make-A-Wish, you're way better just to donate to Make-A-Wish first instead, or directly. Let's see how this actually works. Entering in contest is pretty simple, although you can increase your chances by donating. So they want up to $100 for 2,000 entries. So people could just be pouring $1,000 into us and have way more entries. And what you win there is to then, I think, go draw a card or design your own card. So it's probably going to be just like a tour of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro's offices, and that's probably not going to be that interesting. You're going to talk to and maybe see some people that, if you were deep into the fandom around creators of Magic, you might be interested in, but almost certainly you wouldn't be interested in. It really is a rather silly idea that you would want to spend that extra money. Does this have vigilance? No, but it does have flying, so I'm just gonna buff this guy up some more. Might as well not attack with that one. Yeah. And at the end of the day, designing one card with no guarantee that it would ever show up in Magic is not a reward, really. Not really. You're just doing somebody else's job for them. And even if you did make one card in Magic, there's never like one amazing card that comes out and just drastically changes a good, well-balanced collectible card game. Hearthstone had like Shutterwalk, which required 2 or 3 other cards to be game-breaking. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has like Exodia. What was it? Exodia was a little bit game-breaking, but was broken into 5 different cards. I don't think Pokemon the card game has anything that's super game-breaking. And as far as Magic has all kinds of game-breaking cards that then just end up getting banned. There's speculation by people who are more into Magic than me that at a certain point, sometime around last year, Wizards of the Coast did have this conversation where they were going to be a lot less conservative about putting out broken, unhinged cards that would ruin the game balance, because they are just willing to throw them out there and let people play with them for a week or two, and then banning them to fix the game later. Thus, they don't have to pay as much as far as research and development and gameplay testing. And the reason why that rumor is thought to have occurred, that conversation is thought to have occurred, is because this last year has apparently been one of the most ban-heavy years in Magic ever, with so many cards getting banned, like Oko. Right. 'This I guess will be interesting. Well, that didn't work for me. That sucks. Let's see. If I could get either a red or a black, I could win. Theoretically. But I could also pretty easily lose. Because this and this is a red. And so I just need a black or another white. Either one. Hmm. 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's just go ahead and do this. I guess that's probably the best way to do that. It didn't work. You just canceled 2 cards. Or counted 2 cards. So I probably lost here, which would be a second loss. Next we have a game on Steam called Rover Wars, which looks like it is just a real-time strategy game with not really much polish. It seems like it's an incredibly small play field, probably a port from like an iPad game or a cell phone game from the looks of it. Kind of feels more just like a tower defense game than an actual real-time strategy game where the land masses would actually play a role. It's $4.19 discounted and a whole bunch of language support, allegedly full audio and all of that. Yeah. There's a big difference between something like StarCraft and what that was showing, because of the fact that if you are playing StarCraft, part of each level is that there will be hills and terrain and things that block your ability to move. It doesn't matter what I block, but we'll do it anyways. This is the problem of an over-reliance on expensive cards. Certainly. Like, I could have won had I gotten lucky, but I didn't win, so I would have, if I was playing a constructed deck and trying to play that card as a game winner, I would need some cards to guarantee that I get more land on the field. Moving on, TechRaptor has this article. This Seinfeld video game pitch is lovably weird. It's kind of like a point-and-click adventure game. Here's the thing, though. I doubt Seinfeld would ever allow his likeness in a video game. I don't think that guy, the guy who played Kramer, would allow his likeness in the game, and it's fair to say that the guy who played Kramer also, he got like yelled out of Hollywood for saying something pro-Republican, I believe was what it was. I don't think it was a Me Too moment or anything like that. But they were certainly canceling people for having the wrong politics also. So I'm not sure how much support there would be there. The Larry David, the other writer of Seinfeld, who wasn't in the show, I don't see him as even understanding video games or caring to understand, so I don't think he would be okay with signing off on that. This guy would probably be fine. In fact, all the actors might be really fine with it if they could come back and play voice actors in the game, Elaine, like, and such. But then there would have to be some writing, certainly, around this, because it would have to be like you were playing several episodes, and apparently these are like the creators of this game pitch or something, if I was to guess. You would have to have some really good episodes written that felt a lot like Seinfeld, which would be kind of hard to write any new episodes around Seinfeld and it really work, because any episodes or ideas that are kind of like Seinfeld end up in the Curb Your Enthusiasm TV show, with the exception of the fact that since Curb Your Enthusiasm is really just Larry David writing the episodes, he doesn't have the censoring that was going on that Seinfeld was bringing to the table, and or the censoring that was coming from, I believe, TBS maybe originally aired Seinfeld, but like the public channels compared to HBO airing Curb Your Enthusiasm, which doesn't really have the problem, and just the time also, like they were doing a lot more of a wink and a nod than they would nowadays, which would also change the feeling of a Seinfeld episode. So, and Seinfeld, well, it's a controversial thing to say. It kind of ended perfectly for a show that for the kind of show that it was, like, and in my opinion, it ended perfectly. So I don't know what a video game adds to it. I don't know what the interactivity of it adds to it. The game itself, the unofficial pitch, a video game about nothing, that's literally an episode of Seinfeld where they pitch Seinfeld's life as a comedian in New York, pitching a TV show about nothing. So it's Seinfeld, the situational comedy show, pitching Seinfeld, the situational comedy show. So it becomes very meta. So yeah, I just don't think this would happen. It's interesting in the same way that we saw a Stranger Things point and click adventure game, but probably nothing else. And I don't know why you specifically would go with this almost VGA looking or almost CGA looking animation style when you could do a little bit better and still make it look like an 8-bit point and click adventure. I don't know if you specifically need to make it look like an 8-bit point and click adventure, but you definitely need to make it something that's more text based. But I don't know if you wouldn't want to go something more along the lines of a Telltale game, but maybe 3D graphics in a Telltale game really doesn't work either, because you would actually have to animate those people, and I don't see a point of like 3D scanning the faces of the Seinfeld actors. I don't see a point of, I don't see where the interactivity comes around at all. Like, but particularly in the Seinfeld stories, the events just happen to people. Like, it's either an accident or a random coincidence that things happen to the characters. Very rarely does a character intentionally act or act with any knowledge in a Seinfeld episode. So it's hardly a case that I guess we'll do this. It's hardly going to be a case of like Seinfeld or any of the other characters in the game being a hero type character or an anti-hero. They're not heroes or anti-heroes. They're just normal people that act somewhat normally, maybe act a little crazily. So I think the whole idea falls apart. If anything, I would say something like, if you were going to remake Get Smart as a video game, that makes a lot more sense, or like a James Bond series makes a lot of sense, or Austin Powers makes a lot more sense, because those are heroes and there's enemies, clearly defined things you can do there. Whereas a Seinfeld game almost certainly would just be like a Telltale game with very little options, if absolutely no options. It probably would make sense to kind of not even bother, like just not bother at all to have any interaction in it, and instead instead just bring a VR interactive non-interactive movie out. That would make more sense. I'm thinking like even Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, probably too much video game in that to tell a Seinfeld experience. And honestly, if you gave it 5 to 10 more years, you could probably do a deep fake of all the Seinfeld characters. There's plenty of footage of them there, plenty of their voice. You could probably just do a straight up deep fake of them and use that to just make new episodes and just have AI. Like, you probably don't even have to really write writers too much. You just have an AI write episodes, rip it from the headlines somewhat, and then just deepfake all those characters from the old footage into new episodes of that look exactly like the old Seinfeld episodes. I would also say, as far as criticisms go, I find Curb Your Enthusiasm very funny to watch the first time you've seen their episodes, but Larry David can be a little, his writing and his comedy can be a little rough, certainly, and not for everybody. And he, like, certainly has gone long periods in this time when he was, like, writing for Saturday Night Live. He wasn't really getting any of his skits or jokes on the show. He wasn't writing anything. And it's not like Curb Your Enthusiasm comes out with a new episode every week or anything. He's slow and probably needs a lot of rewriting. And Curb Your Enthusiasm is also improving, so how much of that really is even Larry David's writing? And the same, something similar can be said about Seinfeld. Seinfeld's stand-up is very stable at good, but very often not great. You may notice that you don't see Netflix stand-up skits of Seinfeld coming out that often. He plays it too safe, and he stays away from controversy, but he also stays away from being great. And if you were going to make a situational a sitcom video game, I don't know if you need old writers and old characters. The idea itself is more interesting in abstract. Like, instead of making a sitcom on TV, let's make a sitcom as a episodic point and click adventure game where things happen and then you spend the game trying to resolve simplistic day-to-day problems. And we've certainly seen video games and movies, video games and TV shows and movies put in video games in the past, and they've almost always been terrible. Like E.T. the video game is a terrible retelling of E.T. the movie. So I just think that different interactive forms really don't need the other things. Some of the Harry Potter games are alright, but even like the Lego Harry Potter games are not telling the Harry Potter books well at all, or the Harry Potter movies well at all. So that's another great example. There's plenty of Star Wars games out there, but none of the Star Wars games, even the Lego Star Wars games, don't really do a great job of telling the Star Wars series experience. Like, I've lost here. So, and I would much prefer video game developers not license other things. That was kind of the problem with Telltale Games, is once they started licensing The Walking Dead, once they started licensing Batman, and just every game they made was as a license, meant that a large amount of any profits that they were making after making The Walking Dead Season 1 was just getting reinvested to license something else. It would have been better for society, I think, in general, if Telltale Games had kind of stuck with the Sam and Max idea and made their own games around that idea. Because licenses are just too expensive. Alright, so we only got one victory, which gives us 100 gems. 10,000 gold for 100 gems and a bunch of cards and a pack. And we will What I want to do before you even open the pack, though, is let's see how good was our collecting. We now have 4 of these, 3 of these, 1 of these, 2 of these, 2 of those, 4 of those, 4 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those, and 2 of those. 1 of those, 2 of those, 4 of those, 3 of those, 3 of those, 2 of those, 3 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those. Man, it's still really hard to hover over these things. We now have 2 of the lands, so I was right to get the lands, I think. 2 of those, 2 of those, 3 of those, 1 of those, 1 of those, 4 of these, 4 of these, 2 of these, 1 of those, 4 of those, and yeah. And we did not get any common or uncommon wild cards for getting those basic lands, so that's still a screw job as far as getting the lands. Ideally now, when did I get a Ravnica Allegiance pack? Ideally what happens now is that we will run into a scenario where, this is new for Ravnica Allegiance, which kind of doesn't matter, where the Untapped.gg app will be able to actually tell us what cards we have 1 copy of, or 2 copies, or 3 copies, or 4 copies, because we need that extra bit of information. Otherwise, rare drafting is going to be pretty impossible. And in the real world, playing Paper Magic, I guess rare drafting is fairly impossible unless you just have a memorized collection. I could easily see myself being incapable of playing Magic and rare drafting in the real world, or just having to study the night before Friday night drafting, or whenever drafting happens for Magic, and just study whatever expansion we're going to draft and study what I have as far as cards. Like that first time you draft, if you don't have any cards, it's super easy to rare drafts, but after you get some, or a decent collection, so yeah, not terrible. We need to play more white cards, so what we need to do is, this is the white deck, and what I want to do, oops, is not play with it. That was my mistake. I want to go in there and start throwing in white cards from Ikra, because this was white cards from Theros Beyond Death before that we were playing, and other cards, and we need to see what kind of deck can we make now. Are we anywhere close to making something good, or are we really on the verge of failing miserably? Let's see. Like, this is kind of more of a white-black deck, I think, than a white deck. Let's see. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam, we haven't been going through these games very fast. We have a game here called Pinball Lockdown, which looks like a pinball game. It doesn't look terrible. I don't know if there really is room for a third pinball game in my Steam library, though, after owning the collections of Pinball Arcade and Pinball FX3. Although I think I'm missing quite a few of the Pinball FX3 game tables. I pretty much, I think, have everything in Pinball Arcade, and haven't gotten around to playing any of it, so very arguably I wasted a bunch of money to just ensure that I have that for some future use. But I'll put this on the fall list. and see if people like it. It's $3.59. It looks like it's English only and probably has 5 tables. 5 tables for that price is not terrible considering the pinball tax and how that all goes. It really will come down to how these tables play and how it feels in general, which is always the major factor. Okay. See, like this card in particular does not have any reason to exist. Not really. In that deck. It's just a waste of time to get specific land cards, which, like, specific basic land cards in case you only want a specific basic land card, but you would have to be playing 2 or 3 colors for this really to make sense, and I have not been willing to play 2 or 3 colors in any of my constructed decks because I'm just not smart enough, frankly. Like, that's really what it boils down to. I literally am just not smart enough to know how to play like that. I'm trying to play very monocolor decks, and I'm moving slowly into dual color decks. Let's see. Gonna let this guy attack this turn. What can I do to stop this though? So this guy has first strike. Killed my card though. Darn it, he killed my card. Can I do this? And then this. So how's this gonna synergize? I think very well. Tap, tap, can't attack. Attack here. I think we kind of got this. Let's see how this goes. We block this with this. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of synergies going on. And then the next turn, let's see, we can attack with this one, and we can kind of attack with this one. Yeah. There you go. So if he decides to block there, that's gonna synergize some more. Doing massive amounts of damage. And we're up another level, and we've got another Ikra thing. So, let's open this pack. We're already to the point, though, where there's nothing really new. So, yeah. We may have over-purchased packs even when we bought 30. And we'll need to get quite a few more gold before we can do another 10,000 draft. So here's where were we? We're playing this. We wanted to edit the deck. This is new. Let's see. Yeah, we're filling out quite nicely. Okay. So I want to look at just white cards that are from Ikra, and we want to look at this deck, and we need to start thinking about this. And we're going to do like one deck rebuild here. We're not going to do all the color deck rebuilds, and it's not going to be anything formal that I'm going to make a special video around. So this gives +1 to either a human or a creature. This is a cycling card where we can make a cycling deck. We might need to do that. This doesn't seem terrible. Probably don't need to have 4 of everything to start off with, though. Gaining 4 life, destroying an enchantment, and putting a counter is amazingly good. This, not so much. As an additional cost, a spell tap an untapped creature you control. Exile tap creature, put 1/1 counter. I don't think so. Tap a creature as a 1/2 is probably not that useful. Divine Arrow does 4 damage to a target attacking or blocking as an instance. That's actually very useful, I think, as a white card, because you don't really have a spell card that does damage as a white card. Gain 1 life when cycling might be an idea. That is definitely a card we want in the deck. Vigilance as a 1/4 may not be super useful. Pacifism reprints here instead of the old pacifism cards, which pacifism here is core 20, so core 21 almost certainly not going to have reprints of this pacifism, instead going to have reprints of this pacifism. 3/1s, nothing. Whenever you cycle another card for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 soldier. So are we going to be making a deck with cycling, or are we going to make a deck with healing based on the cards we have? Vigilance counter on a non-human creature. Other humans get +1/+1. Are we going to be playing humans or creatures? That's another thing. I think you probably would want to play creatures, because the previous white cards have been creatures for the most part, particularly this one. The cat soldier, which was a main staple of my white deck, because it gets those +1/+1s. This one gets lifelink if you cycle. Some of these cards with cycling may just prove themselves to be way better than anything else we've got to offer, and it may be that drastically changes what you would normally want to do. +X for the number of times it's mutated. I don't think that's likely to be played unless you just are going to do a full mutate deck. Choose an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, or a planeswalker from among non-land permanents they control, and sacrifice the rest. If red and black was spent to cast a spell, you may choose the permanents for each player instead. Ooh. That's interesting. Certainly. It's an interesting, like, board clear with you potentially having ability or near board clearing ability. It's not quite exactly board clearing, no. Creatures you control get +2/+1. It's a little too expensive, though. Vigilance and mutate for 5. It's a little too expensive. You may see that the expense is part of the problem. Though maybe expense is not really as big a deal as I think. And then, why am I looking at a black card when I have just white cards highlighted? Destroy a non-land permanent. This one gains life, so that's probably not a bad idea. And then this one is a 2/2 for 3 mana. Spells your opponent casts cost 2 more. Don't know if this is really worth it. Here we have a companion. What does it say? The starting deck contains at least 20 cards more than the minimum deck size. Your enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own or control. Return these cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. I'm gonna put this in, set it as a companion, I guess, all of a sudden. So now we have this companion, which we're gonna have to have 80 cards to, which might not be a bad idea, because now you just have this extra excuse to play these decks and try out cards that you normally wouldn't be willing to try out, just because you were limited to that 60. Now I'm not limited to that 60. Apparently I can't put these in the deck, probably because I already have Scoured Barons. Yeah, we already have 4 Scoured Barons. And it's the exact same card, it's just a reprint. And that's an important thing to remember. Let's see. Exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to creature's toughness. I don't think I'd want to play that. Legendary humans you control are indestructible. Is this a legendary human? No, it's a creature. Other humans you get +1/+1. Whenever a creature mutates, return target creature card with a convert cost of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I don't think so. It's kind of unlikely that we'll have any other color cards we want to try with this. Don't think those crystals are really worth it, and these 3 color combination decks, they probably would make sense when you're trying to have 80 cards more than anything else, but not really. Not really what I'm going for when I'm trying to learn the red cards. I could get Rodan in there, or try to get a Planeswalker in there, but no, it's not gonna cut it. So then let's look at the new, we're still filtering by Ikra. Let's look at the new black cards and see what black cards we can add that would potentially synergize with the idea of getting health. Because we did have a decent amount of cards that were synergizing around that, and we have 10 more cards that we can adjust the count of cards to get up to that right now. But let's see. Whenever your creature controls dials, each opponent loses 1 life, and you can Gain 1. Yeah, we definitely want 2 of those. There's still a problem though. Even if I get this deck really set, some of these cards are gonna leave standard. And we will be back to rebuilding this deck probably in the next expansion, regardless of even if it works really well and it becomes our new standard black-white deck to play. And as far as naming them, I have no interest in naming these decks at all. So I'll have to think of some kind of system that's simplistic, and that's about all I want to say, is that I'll probably do something very stupid and simplistic, like BW deck, and that's it. This is not probably a terrible card just to generically have, so we'll throw it in there just to throw them in there. Then that just leaves us with these cards. Add a colorless, draw a card, activate the ability only if you control a creature with power greater 4. So you could draw a card. This could put a basic card onto the field. This is just a new reprint of Evolving Wilds, which I guess eventually I'll start to realize that some of these cards are so often reprinted to always be in standard that there's no point in even crafting them. But it would be very nice if Magic just said, hey, you already have 4 copies of Evolving Wilds in the old print, so you're going to still be able to play those cards as proxies, or you're going to this isn't bad. Or we're going to allow you to convert the art from the old not standard cards to the art of the new standard cards for some small amount of gold. I wouldn't even want to pay gems to do that, but some of these cards almost definitely feel like they are closer to what a core set would be. Not in the sense that every year Magic comes out with a core set, but in the sense that if this wasn't a collectible card game, but instead a deck building game where you bought a core set that included all the standard cards in the maximum amount you can use them in, and then expansions gave you all the cards of every expansion. That's what some of these cards are, or feel like. Something that you're just inevitably going to get 4 copies of and probably not even use. For a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library. Alright. That's, I think, enough of that. So, what can we up now? We'll just see how we try and increase our numbers with cards that we have. And Flutterfox, I feel like we could probably get rid of, because it doesn't really synergize very well. Put more angels on the field. Omen on the Sun. As you gaining health. Let's put more of those in the collection. This kind of doesn't synergize, so it's a little bit weird. This has lifelink. This would never actually work, but it's kind of the closest white card that we have as far as a board clear. Well, actually, this is a board clear too. So, do I really need... Where is it? If this destroys all characters on the field, and where was the other card that did that? Here it is. Let's get rid of that one. Tranquil Cove, which is a white-blue. I don't think we need. And Fable Passages, we don't need. Okay. And I'm gonna put this as W test. And that's pretty much what I'm gonna do. That's gonna be my new W test deck, and we'll test out cards from that. And if at some point this becomes a really big winner and gets us ranked wins, I'll tweak it a little bit and then promote it to an actual standard deck. We really don't have any standard decks right now at all as far as what to play if we want to win, other than Out for Blood. Like, Out for Blood is the only deck I've had any real experience with, or any real success with. I think I probably want to mulligan here. Instant victories, not a problem for me. Getting 15 victories today would be great. The main problem though is that we've spent extra time doing a draft, extra time playing the draft, extra time opening packets, and extra time building a new deck. So now it gets down to the point where we need to rush through the games and actually start playing. This is too dangerous of a starting hand, and that's even worse. And that's even worse. I must just not have enough land. So you get rid of that one first. Get rid of this for sure. And we need to return one more card. And let's see, when can we bring this in the field? When we have 5 land. Okay. Meanwhile, we have a game on Steam here called Inferno Wizards, and that thumbnail seems to be pretty low effort. The game itself looks like it's an asset flip game where you're playing as kind of a fire mage running around. With more polish, this might look like a real game, but the thumbnail gives it away pretty quickly. Early access, free, English only. Yeah, I don't see any reason why anybody would make a game like that and bother. just some weirdness with all of that. Yeah, I don't know why people would abandon what is effectively a test demo or a test project in game development and then put it on Steam and spend $100 to list it on Steam when it's not even going to sell, particularly if you're setting the price for free. Speaking of video games that should be abandoned, apparently yet another person who some YouTuber who made like a cartoon animated episode, like an anime episode, fan episode of Yandere Simulator, put out a video saying she doesn't want to be associated with Yandere Simulator anymore. Very vague, not giving any real reasons. She did say she was not comfortable with it. I don't really know what to take from that. Personally, from my own understanding of it, she probably, like, I would just kind of realize that it was going nowhere, and her being an animator on YouTube does not benefit by her being associated with Yandere Simulator. And yeah, that game is still not out, and still not really any closer to being out. And at a certain point, it is really just rubbing salt in their wound to continuously bring it up. But yeah, it is also a thing that the developer is bringing upon themselves by not just admitting that they can't finish the project, and they need to move on with their life. Let's see. What makes a creature legendary? Legendary humans you control have indestructible. Or do I want to play this? Any number of non-land permanents from your own control, return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next thing. Ooh, you know what this might do? In a weird way. Is this might very interestingly cause this to come back and everything else to come back, and then resummon, activating the ability that gives you +1 health every time a creature is summoned. Interesting. Let's see, exit tile card in the graveyard. Sacrifice a creature. Darn it. Is this gonna make me sacrifice all 3 of my creatures? That would suck. Think it might. I'm about to lose. TechRaptor has an article here. Card game narrative adventure Signs of Sojourner revealed, coming out in May. Seems differently animated for a card game, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but it might be a bit too simplistic of a game from the looks of it. You really can't have a card game where half of the screen on both sides are taken up with animated people. It seems almost like it's a puzzle card game where the cards connect. It's almost like a matching idea, and not player versus player designed at all. If this is single player, there might be something to it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there kind of is nothing to it. card games typically tend to be low-hanging fruit efforts. All right. Let's just see what this does. One. Oh, we can't play that at all. Do I want to attack? Might as well. I can't play this till the 5th, till I have 5 mana. Next, we have a game on Steam called Hexon, which looks like a single screen Unity game, some kind of puzzle game. Doesn't look very complicated. And I think that's the thing that would really kill the idea of this being worth playing. Yeah, it seems very simplistic. $1.19 discounted, a whole bunch of languages. And we lost. I'm not sure if I lost there because of my cards or because of some his cards, though. And this is a mythic rare card that we got from what expansion? That's the real question, because I don't know that symbol off the top of my head. It is Ravnica Allegiance, maybe? So, yeah. All of these are about to go into historic, effectively. And they just gave me Ravnica Allegiance cards. It's a mythic rare Ravnica Allegiance card. It's kinda useless. Yeah. Kind of some trickery going on there. Although, I guess the way this all plays out is you just were going to have that chance happen because you couldn't have waited to buy the Mastery Pass until the expansions went into Historic and then gotten it. That might be the only real reason why you would want to buy the Mastery Pass for Core Set 2021, which I assume is the next set. So I can't buy that one. So then we have to buy this one. Well, I guess I had only one gem after all. Alright. So I guess the way this all is going to boil down, now that I look at this, I bet you can't get this until you get these two. So I bet it does require you to get everything before you can get to that point. And, you know, kind of making like a bow and arrow shape. Yeah. Back to playing. Come on, page load up. Gamatsu has an article here. Anime Expo 2020 is canceled due to coronavirus concern. The expo will return to the Los Angeles Convention Center in 2021, allegedly. That's what they say, but the only way any of these expos happen is from the profits of the previous year. So unless their insurance pays them rather well, there's a lot of momentum loss that very well will just completely cancel Anime Expo. Although Anime Expo also is one of the biggest experiences as far as anime conventions, so I don't think it's in as bad of a shape as a lot of these smaller anime conventions, which a lot of the anime conventions can be particularly small, like just ridiculously small. Now, what does this really have to do with video games? Probably not too much. I doubt any major video game that was going to get announced. It would have been a Japanese video game, and almost certainly all the Japanese video games are going to be canceled or delayed also. And there almost certainly would have been some video game playing happening at Anime Expo, and some Japanese video games may have been highlighted and promoted at Anime Expo, but it's really a far cry from like E3 being canceled, and even E3 in comparison barely highlights and promotes video games to the vast majority of gamers. There is a slew of anime series that are going to be like delayed, which probably won't be too big of a deal. Although if the Japanese are stuck in their houses and they have nothing to do, they very possibly will go even more stir crazy than people in, say, the United States have, or some of the people we've seen in the United States, because in Japan in particular, it's all about going out, like going out to ramen shops, going out to drink, going out to festivals, going out to events. There's almost every average Japanese apartment is incredibly small, and there's very, very little to do there. Video games, sure, they can play that, assuming they have game consoles or PCs, which I wouldn't be surprised if a slightly larger percentage of people don't have those. TV, sure, but there isn't really a ton of great TV in Japan on TV either, particularly if all the shows are going to get canceled. So yeah, I could very easily very easily see them getting very stir crazy. Can I mutate this? Apparently this is a vampire, so apparently a creature and a creature works. So vampires work with creatures, interesting. I would have put vampires more in the category of humans, but that really divides humans into such a small subfield. Let's see. +1/+1 creature. +1/+1 on a counter on a target creature. Can't really do anything there, so we'll wait. Next we have a game on Steam called Kill Still, which looks like Kill Steal is the name of it. It looks like it's just an asset flip car combat game. Doesn't look like it's very polished. If you're going to make a car combat game, I don't see a reason to have so much of the menu taken up with unimportant elements. It's free to play, single player, English only. Again, just like a low effort game that has no real reason to exist. This doesn't. That doesn't do anything. There's an interesting job listing from Techland, the, I believe, company that makes this spiritual successor to Dead Island. What is that game called? I keep meaning to play it and I never get around to it, and they keep adding more and more things. But they're looking for an influencer manager, somebody to take care, to deal with and take care of influencers, live streamers, things like that. They want you to, it'd be nice if you could speak Spanish, French, German, or simplified Chinese, and the ability to conduct presentations and appear in front of cameras. It's an interesting idea for a job that I don't know if I really ever want to deal with people ever in my life, frankly. And that's a very loaded statement, but as a YouTube content creator, in all fairness, a small time, probably considered failed YouTube content creator, maybe I could bring some maturity and understanding to that field and actually manage influencers somewhat, but also I don't know if I want to deal with a bunch of prima donnas, which is almost certainly what you would be dealing with. Here's a question: does this mutate onto an angel? Let's see. I'm gonna put this over because you get the abilities still when it's over. You just don't get its base attack and health. I worked on a project once where I got a list of like every bad word that could ever be said in almost any language, and so I would already have a heads up if I was going to try and be an influencer manager to say, hey, here's the list of things you can't say. The problem though with that list as it was is that so many words in other languages are bad words that you've effectively eliminate a lot of regular speech that wouldn't be considered bad in the Western world. Particularly if you're saying you can't use slang that slightly changes it. Like the list I was using was for like usernames, so that your username couldn't be a bad word. Speaking of which, there was a guy whose last name was Corona and had an account for like 5 years as a League of Legends player or something. He was a big time video game player, and they made him change his name anyways, but that really didn't feel like enough news to really talk about. So if I was going to be an influencer manager, if I was just going to pretend like that was something I would be interested in doing, I'd probably talk to Techland and go, here's a list, let's go through this list and let's check off the words that we think are not acceptable versus the words that are acceptable, and then you can put something in concrete as far as you're not allowed to say these as an influencer working with us, which probably solves a good 30 to 50% of the problems that a video game company like Techland and influencers would have. It's just like, you can't say this, you can't do this. It's written in stone. Then the influencers also can't come back and go, oh, you're nebulous, or oh, we thought that was okay, or we thought you were cooler than that, which is the thing that YouTube does all the time, is that they just fail to have any consistent rules that are that fairly applied to everyone. But on the other hand, yeah, being an influencer manager would be dealing with a lot of entitled prima donna-ish content creators that very possibly don't want to deal with. This is a nice synergy that's going on here. We're 5 to 50. We could play this next turn if necessary, but this wouldn't even really do anything, so there's no reason to play it. And I don't really feel like I'm being punished by having 80 cards, which apparently this guy had some extra cards also. Just attack here and then. Gamatsu has this article, Near Reincarnation first gameplay videos out. So a new Nier series for iOS and Android. I watched this and I would say at least half of the video is the audio, but the video has this virtual thumbstick on the screen the whole time, so it's pretty annoying there. What I can say, since there's not really, you're really not showing anything, you're just showing two characters walking, and that's it. There's no battle, there's nothing here. It's really just a test demo of how many pixels and polygons they can have on screen and how large of a vista can they depict. See, this whole platform here almost certainly would have enemies spawn and attack you at some point, although this character seemingly has no weapons or abilities at all. And so if the whole game is really just a walking around with the virtual stick just pressed forward the whole time, which is also a bit of a problem, there's really not a lot being shown there. The audio's good and the visuals look good. The most impressive part is this part, and yeah, there's a lot of polygons here. Modern cell phones can do this, and it's not going to be super high resolution or detailed, but there's really not a game here yet. So that's the thing to keep in mind. And my fear with the Nier series, since the first Nier game wasn't particularly amazing and Nier Automata was particularly was really good, although I haven't played it yet, which I can say for almost every good game for the past 3 or 4 years, that there's a concern that Nier as a series just somehow lucked out. It's also worth mentioning that cell phone game is not made by Team Ninja or Platinum. I think it was Platinum that made Nier Automata, Platinum Games. So it's really just a side story thing, not something to hang your hat on or be too interested in. But it could also be the beginning of doom for the series if they try to push a cell phone version and then 4 to 8 years from now there still isn't another sequel to Nier, a proper sequel to Nier Automata, to the point where Nier Automata just feels like a fluke that is at that point would have been long since forgotten. It already was a little difficult to justify playing Nier Automata without really thinking about or playing any of the previous games. The previous, I think, 2 games in the Nier series. Next we have a game on Steam called Glory Horse Racing, which is a horse racing simulator game. And unfortunately it's just not quite polished enough to really be interesting. They never really are as far as horse racing games. And you can see the price here discounted is $21.24. That's way too high. Bunch of languages. Virtual horse racing games kind of only popular in Japan as far as I know. I don't think there really is any other country that even gives them the time of day. And yeah, again, never really good quality games. I would also potentially argue that if you were going to have a horse racing simulator, something that you could just bet virtual money on and watch, and it really just kind of a gambling simulator type game, I don't know why you'd want that on a PC compared to putting it on a cell phone. Like, I feel like a cell phone would be a much better ability and use of that. A much better platform for horse racing simulators. So will I survive long enough? See. I can gain life, but I'd like this to be on the field before I start gaining life. I might need to just put pacifism on several things. Okay. Pacifism on this. And then 6, 8. Next we have a game on Steam called Car Dealer, which seems like a simulator of running a car dealership. Just a low effort asset flip game. Yeah. Being the person in charge of a car dealership is doing somebody's job. It's not a video game. I think that's the new way I'm going to phrase that argument. That seems to happen a lot. Car Dealer is discounted to $6.95 and has a bunch of languages it supports. It's not really surprising that so many of these games are bad, and these are games that really just came out after I curated on Friday. Next we have a game on Steam here called Another Try, which is just a survival asset flip game with some low polygon textures. It's discounted to $2 and English only with a third-party EULA. This doesn't even look terrible as an asset flip. It actually feels like they put more effort into designing the level, but still doesn't look like a game anybody really would want to play. Okay. Okay. I have basically nothing I can do. Gain 10 life. And then do no attacks. Next we have a game on Steam called Night Royale, which looks like an 8-bit graphics, like Joust clone, where you're just fighting each other. There was a game that took this kind of idea and expanded it to be slightly interesting for a couple hours of gameplay. This doesn't get anywhere that close. This is discounted to 68 cents, English only. I don't even know if I'm going to mention the follow list at this point. Let's see. Block that. And maybe we've got something now, but I doubt it. TechRaptor has this article. Nintendo Switch scalpers are using bots to drive up prices. One assumes that that's kind of what they've been doing with a lot of items. In particular, it's just there's people have figured out automated ways to either buy things and then resell them, buy the things cheap at regular retail price and then sell them higher, or perhaps pull off some other shenanigans where they, I don't know, potentially rise the price of bids and auctions by running up the prices higher. But that would be a little bit dangerous to use bots to raise the price of auctions. But yeah, at this rate, unless something majorly changes, I don't think I'll be getting a Switch anytime this year, which probably opens up the door that it wouldn't be worth it or relevant to get the Switch by the time one is available sometime next year, unless they come out with like a fully backward compatible Switch version 2. This also opens up the door where you're in this weird situation that you almost never run into legitimately in the West, at least, where piracy might really be the only option if you want to play Nintendo games. If you literally can't buy the hardware or buy the software and you want to play it, and you're not going to have an opportunity to buy the hardware or software anytime soon, then piracy will almost certainly go up, whether ignoring the morals of that or not. A lot of the scalpers, due to shortages right now, are really dooming themselves to regret, I think, probably in the next month or two, when people don't buy the things that they scalped or are trying to sell. And that is what happens to a lot of scalpers, but it doesn't solve the immediate shortage crises that we're having right now for things. Nintendo could very easily, though, say, hey, we're going to release our games digitally on PC if they were capable of putting them out on PC, and if they had some kind of internal emulator that they uncertainly do have a Switch emulator of some sort that they developed the games on, so they could release their games on PC, and this would be the perfect time for them to do that and say, hey, let's just open up our market so that we don't have to be selling the plastic and the physical stuff that we can't get right now. This pandemic is really the best argument ever to going to an all digital world. But I doubt Nintendo would be the first ones to do that. You'd almost have to assume you would see Sony releasing all their games on PC first, and Microsoft is already releasing all their games on PC pretty much. So there's a lot of fighting that would have to happen before the old guard would allow that to happen. Moving on, Streets of Rage 4 is coming to PC and consoles on April 30th. One of the things about like Sony and Microsoft's releasing of games on PCs right now, though, is that they are getting released day and date with the physical versions. What I mean is that they would have to embrace releasing them only on PC or digitally early, and I imagine a lot of people, a lot of Microsoft and Sony publishers and developers would prefer to release on the consoles digitally only first and physical versions later when they can, well before they would be willing to release things on PC digitally first. We're getting some victories here, but a lot of them are not really related to my gameplay. Streets of Rage 4 looks fine. We'll see how it plays. Gamatsu has this interesting article though. Danganronpa 1, 2, and V3 are coming to iOS and Android. The first in the series of monthly 10th anniversary broadcasts are set for May 21st. So, the Danganronpa series as a kind of weirdo JRPG series probably works fairly well as an idea on iOS and Android, but the graphics probably aren't going to look great. If I was just to guess, I would say that the graphics are probably not going to look amazingly great for any of them. And it puts me personally in a weird position because I think I purchased the Danganronpa games and now there's potentially some pressure to play those and cover those before they come out on cell phones or around the time they come out on cell phones, because it's going to be really silly to play the PC version if there's a cell phone version that potentially is cheaper or different. There was nothing in that article I saw as I was skimming, I really wasn't paying enough attention to it, that said those games were coming out for free. They almost certainly are not, so they probably are going to be something trying to sell for at least $10, if not $30 or more, which they may very well price themselves out of many sales, because the Danganronpa series is like actual games coming to cell phones, whereas cell phones are flooded with free games that are garbage, but they have established this rapport where you're not used to actually paying money for a game. Even the games that are slightly good and do want you to pay for them are not actually good enough to justify their price. Things like Monument Valley, for instance, it's a decent game, but I don't know if I really would have been happy if I'd paid $5 for it, or even $2. It really has been just a race to the bottom as far as prices on cell phones, and a big part of that is cell phones are just physically too small for the price that they cost. Like when you're really paying $500 to $700 for a cell phone, all the software then has to be free to subsidize the cost of that small device in your hands that costs that much. Next, we have a game on Steam called Tiktaalik in the Dino Moonbase, which looks like a MS Paint RPG game. Almost looks like it's drawn by a kid, or it's definitely targeting kids. Looks terrible though. It's $2.99 English only. Yeah, probably could have just skipped over that, and I probably have done that with actually a lot of things. Come to think about it. Gamma Sutra has a blog here. Steam gets, quote, editorial when we weren't looking, which is somewhat true, in the fact that Steam has, in the past year or two, picked specific winners and losers to put in their highlights and festivals. One assumes that this wasn't ever a situation where they were just having people pay them to promote their games during the summer sale and winter sales and those big sales. So they kind of have been editorializing what they wanted to highlight, or at least basing it on their own little whims more than any statistic. It's like, I trust Valve. If they say these were the top sellers this year and that's why we're promoting them, I believe them. Like, because if they got caught in that lie, they would get called out very quickly. But when they're having the spring festival, what they're promoting is pretty much just what they want to promote. And when they have specific sales or promotions of a specific company, I suspect that's in part because that company is willing to work with them or pay them for that extra advertising on their front page, which is probably a very valuable bit of ad space to be on the front page of Steam. But they also try to highlight some small things. And then when they say like the best sellers of the month, when they're promoting that some of the best sellers of the games are just like low effort adult sex games, that's certainly a lot of lack of editorialization on behalf of Valve, because we kind of know that there are at least a couple people that work in Valve that would like to editorialize the top 10 sales lists and other lists and remove games that they don't feel should be promoted, but they don't do that. That is in part thanks to their crazy libertarian views. It works fairly well for them in that instance. I need to think about what is killing me. And I think what's killing me right now is the lack of land. I think the game, when you have 80 cards, I think you've got to put some more land in your cards, in your deck. Otherwise, you're going to have to play cycling, and even that doesn't really work. So, yeah, I think if I'm going to tweak this deck, I'd give it maybe one black, one white, and we'll see what happens after that. And then take out something. Let's take out like this Flutter Fox, which we don't need, and it doesn't synergize with the rest of the cards. So deck. Yeah. So we're gonna go one extra plane, one extra swamp, get rid of Flutter Fox, and maybe get rid of this, because I don't think that really synergizes either. We'll apply some styles while we're here and hop into the game. Gamma Sutra also has an article. Gamescom eyes digital show as Germany extends its COVID-19 bans on all events. Yeah, we pretty much know that's the case for everything. Is that either they're going to have a digital show or they're just going to cancel their shows completely. at this point, the Cooking Mama Cookstar drama, which, try to say that 5 times fast, is not that interesting to me. But Game of Sutra has the continuation. The drama thickens as the publisher starts to write to publish, which we had already heard about that. They said, well, we're not legally under any kind of order, like a protection order or a cease and desist or anything. Even a cease and desist isn't a legally enforceable declaration. So they're saying we're contractually allowed to publish it, so we're publishing it, and that's pretty much as far as they could get with that, I think. So I think at this point, unless there is an actual lawsuit that gets established, that's the next bit of news. The thing about news to always take if you're going to be good at reporting news, in my opinion, you talk about things when they add new bits of relevant information, or when the audience doesn't have the story, they don't have the information. But I've talked about the Cooking Mama Cookstar situation 3 or 4 times, and so if people haven't heard it by now, that they're not going to hear it. The next bit of information that's relevant is if it actually gets to a lawsuit, and at that point I'll say, well, the lawsuit that we thought was coming is actually coming now. And then as the lawsuit proceeded, if a lawsuit did happen, that would be the next point to get more bits of information and report on that information. But I don't want to become much like CNN is a great example, where CNN's a 24-hour news network, and they pick a narrative and they talk about that narrative over and over and over again for 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they don't have anything new to say in a lot of cases. It's like, I don't want to beat a dead horse as far as news reporting, particularly in the video game industry, because it is, for as terrible as the games are that come out on Steam, at least it's different information to talk about some low effort game on Steam than compared to just talking about the same game. And I definitely wouldn't want to be a video game news reporter, journalist, which is half of what I do, who just talks about like Borderlands or something over and over again. That's a slow animation, but cool. It's cool, but it's slow. And those kind of animations, if you were playing on a cell phone version of this, would be pretty bad. They'd waste a lot of space. Again, did I lose because of me, or did I lose because of them? Probably because of me. So yeah, like, you have this game O Frog on Steam here, just as an example. It's probably not a great game from the looks of it, but it's different. It looks like it's, I don't even know what is it. Almost looks like you jump around and bounce around, but every screenshot is very stationary, lacking in enemies. Oh, let's see. Oh, it's kind of like Cut the Rope, I think, where you're platforming and swinging. Yeah, it doesn't look amazing and interesting. It's $11.99 discount in English only. I don't think I'm impressed enough with this game to put it on the fall list at $11.99. Even though it does have a decent amount of polish, it doesn't look like it's a low effort game by any means. I guess I'll be generous. I'll put it on the follow list, but I'd probably reject it fairly quickly. I think what I need to do is rebuild this deck so that it has even more land. I think the land balance is just way off. If I'm having to mulligan 2 or 3 times to play a land. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Demon Blast, which looks like a Wolfenstein 3D clone. Although it does have some nice animation to it, it seems like it might have some roguelike elements to it. Also, it's an interesting idea. Like different levels. It almost feels like a Chinese game, because if you were doing something like Doom or Wolfenstein, you would see a level selection menu like this in between the levels, but you wouldn't make a screenshot to highlight that if you knew what you were doing. And then this storefront definitely makes it feel like more of an RPG or a roguelike. I don't know if there's a game here that people would really want to play or not, but it does have kind of a much higher amount of polish than normal. It's $13.49 and it's English and Russian, which is slightly suspicious. It's got 8 guns and then power-ups. I'm gonna put this on the follow list and see what people say, just because I feel like this is potentially a actually completed project that I'd like to see people's response to it. So let's see, we are 2 hours and 30 minutes into streaming, and just now I'm starting to get uncomfortable in my chair. We didn't even do an accountability section this week. I did say I played some Magic over the weekend, but that's pretty much it. I think I also maybe did some Death Spank, but I definitely spent Sunday trying to play it, but not getting around to playing it, because the problem with my insomnia is if it is around 10 in the morning after I've streamed, or a day I don't stream, at that point I kind of feel like I should go to sleep if I haven't been to sleep in the past 12 hours. So I end up staying up all day but feeling woozy, feeling like I'm half asleep. I'm just not mentally alert, as it were. So that's part of the problem, is that I'll just spend hours and hours A, not being able to fall asleep because I have insomnia, and B, not being able to do anything because I'm woozy mentally and foggy headed, and wouldn't really be good at streaming or pre-recording at that point. And people who followed my channel long enough have certainly seen me stream when I was half asleep, and it's certainly not that good. Well, not that my streams are amazingly great anyways. I think we get rid of this card because while this card does do damage, 3 damage, it takes like 2 turns to do it for 1 mana, which is cheap but then slow. And it is weird for cards to be slow in Magic. So we're gonna bump up and bump up, and then maybe we get rid of a pacifism too. We're running into that a little too much. And we get rid of the Spring Trap. Hmm. I may have ruined the balance of my deck by adding back cards that I really should only have 3 in the deck, or 2 in the deck, or 1 in the deck. Because there definitely are cards, and I guess that is a high level of learning how to play Magic, is to realize that some cards you really should only have 1 copy of. Finally a good starting hand. So get rid of that for sure. And then this for more land we'll hold on to. And we'll play this first. Shoot. I'm gonna delay playing anything because I keep not playing this when I should have played that the first turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Cast VR, which looks like it's a VR representation of a cathedral and you're casting spells. It doesn't look particularly interesting. Because yeah, it doesn't seem like you're really accomplishing much or going anywhere. I think it kind of is just going to boil down to standing in one place and casting spells at monsters. It's $14.99 with no discount, English full audio. Yep. And I would just say, again, with VR games, probably not going to play any of them. But if I was going to play one, it'd have to be really, really good. Gamma Sutra has an article, Monster Hunter Riders topped 5 million downloads in Japan after 2 months. That's what people in Japan are going to do if they start having to socially isolate. They're going to play on their cell phones like crazy. They already do. But that absolutely is what's gonna what people will be doing, is playing games on their cell phones more than playing games at home on consoles or PC. I guess it is also worth mentioning that I think Japanese cell phones can play I think they can play TV. Like a lot of cell phones can receive HD local channels, free over-the-air channels. So I wouldn't be surprised if that too was a major thing that would occur, is people just watching TV on their cell phones. But that doesn't inherently mean people will be buying new cell phones. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article, Oculus Connect shifts to digital as Facebook extends its in-person event ban into 2021, and I imagine that's what we're going to see with a lot of companies, that even if the social isolation gets stopped by government agencies, you'll just see a lot of corporate entities and such saying, no, we're going to keep on isolating for a long time. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here for the Switch. Cupid Parasite launches August 20th in Japan. Become Cupid herself, which I assume this girl is Cupid. And I think this is a guy, that's a guy, that's a guy, that's a guy, and that's a guy. So this feels like this is probably a kind of otome game in which you're going to be helping these guys find dates in a visual novel way from Idea Factory. And there probably is like some true ending where Cupid falls in love with all or one of these guys. It's kind of a interesting, almost like French Art Nouveau. I think that's how I would classify it, art style here. Definitely different. Okay. Let's go ahead with pacifism on him. So pacifism still works. And that on the field. And what do we want to do? I think we can kind of attack with one. See, this might be the beginnings of the end very much of new games getting announced though, and from Japan for a while, but I could say the same for the West and everywhere else too. We may just start seeing very few things getting announced or talked about in total. Gamatsu has this article for the Switch. Hakuoki Shinkai Gensai no Shu launches July 30th. This seems like more samurai guys in a visual novel otome game, if I was to guess. Let's see if we can look at this. Since these are Switch games, I assume there's not going to be anything YouTube family unfriendly here. Suppose it is interesting to question how many guys is too many guys, or how many girls is too many guys in a romance story. I've certainly seen games where there's only 3. I think 3 is probably the minimum, and I've seen stories where it was 6, 7, 8 or more. That guy doesn't have any legs. I don't know if he's not supposed to have any legs and he's animated that way, or if they just decided to animate him that way. Do we have anything we need to destroy? No. Let's see, we have a game on Steam here called PST Primary Surgical Treatment VR, which feels like this is a virtual simulation of doing surgery that is not just a joke surgeon simulator experience from the looks of it. If anything, it looks fairly accurate, but not quite realistic. First of all, you don't have a nurse, you don't have any of these tools lying on like a sterilized cloth or in their own separate sterilized packaging. They're just laid out on the table there. But this doesn't look terrible. This actually looks like this might be an educational product. Free to play, English only. Click that on the following list. A lot of kids games, and this will be a weird conversation to have certainly, but I'll just throw it out there. A lot of kids games on cell phones are particularly bad kids games, promote the idea of kids being able to pretend that they are baby doctors, that they're gonna have Elsa or some other character give birth, Barbie give birth. What's funny in my mind about that is, like, you really couldn't accurately represent the experience of being a baby doctor, and and someone actually giving birth. There's too many instances where that goes bad, and even when it goes relatively well, it still kind of goes really bad. In the actual experience of childbirth, so you wouldn't want to scare off kids that very well might grow up to be doctors of some sort by telling them too much too early or telling the truth too much. It's a happy little lie that we let kids believe, and frankly we let like even first year MDs and nurses believe. There's plenty of kids that go to college wanting to be nurses and doctors and don't have a clue of just how bloody and messy and frustrating it's all going to be, and how there's a lot of elements and a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that you just wouldn't see on TV that you're going to have to deal with. Moving on, we have Hangman 2 on Steam. So this is clearly a low effort game. It doesn't look terrible, but even if this was free, I don't know why you'd play Hangman on your PC. And why not do this on a website? The number of words in their vocabulary is going to be the thing that really kills you. And the idea that this is volume 2 or the sequel to Hangman is ridiculous. It's selling for 98 cents. It's English only. It has achievements. 30 achievements. It's clearly an achievement game because it's just so cheap with so many achievements. And we really haven't been highlighting or calling things achievement games, but that's really what this is. Let's go ahead and activate this ability. Sure. Do I want to attack or do I want to wait? So I think I finally am going to be able to get this to work. Put this on the field and then get rid of this, this, and this if I can. I don't know if I can get rid of tokens, and then bring them back the next turn and see if that triggers this. Otherwise, I'm not sure what this companion really accomplishes, and the companion may not be worth having. And if the companion is not worth having 80 cards is definitely not worth having. So we'll have to see about that. Now, just now I'm seeing the beginning of the end for reference. Okay. Next turn, no attacks. Next we have a game on Steam called Epic Conquest 2, which it has a nice thumbnail and an anime girl. It looks like it's an action RPG game. It also looks like it could very easily be one of these RPG games that has some adult elements that you could patch into. This doesn't look terrible. It does not look like an RPG Maker game. If anything, it kind of looks like it's like an attempt at like a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 even game. Something that would work on a cell phone. It's not really going with the super chibi animation where they are really, really short and doll-like looking. Nor is it really going with the heavy moe art style. They are animated a little short, but not terrible. So Epic Conquest is early access for $7.99. Epic Conquest 2, it's English. So I guess the idea here is I should look and see if Epic Conquest 1 exists, and it seems like it isn't on Steam. Which that seems weird, but I'm gonna put it on the follow list and see what the reception is. Wouldn't be surprised if nobody ever plays it, but it doesn't seem like it's an RPG Maker game that I can just easily dismiss. And since I'm playing Deathspank right now, which is also an action RPG, the idea of playing a Japanese RPG game, which that's probably not the right one to play, but an action RPG Japanese game to get into playing Japanese RPGs would be a nice little middle step to take. But also, if I am going to play RPGs, I'm going to probably need 6 months to a year in between them. And I think Ni no Kuni is still probably way better than playing like Epic Conquest 2. So, yeah. Let's see if this works. This strategy won't even really pull off an immediate victory. Oh, they stole one of my lands. Seriously. Stole one of my lands. So now I need another land before I can play. Actually, I need another white land because that's the only thing I could use. Next, we have a game on Steam called Tabletop Playground Beta, which looks like it is a tabletop sim game like Tabletop Simulator. I don't know why somebody needs to try to even compete with Tabletop Simulator though. That's the weird one. This one's free, at least at the moment. But almost certainly, yeah, the first thing you're going to get compared to is the $20 Tabletop Simulator. So, yeah. I'll put it on the fall list and see if people all of a sudden decide that this is better. It doesn't have any DLC, and they're promoting this other game, Tabletop Playground, with this. So there might be something there. I don't know if Tabletop Simulator handles this aspect of having characters and figurines and painting them. That is very possibly something Tabletop Simulator doesn't do, or these little cardboard characters. Maybe it doesn't do that, and maybe this has just even better support or smoother programming. I don't know if you can play air hockey in Tabletop Simulator, but yeah, Tabletop Playground Beta, something to think about. But definitely a hard sell also for anybody who's already bought Tabletop Simulator. I doubt they want to spend more effort and time even learning a new software, even if it is free. This guy is just stealing all of my cards. All I wanted to do was play this companion card, and he's just found a way to steal everything from me. Do it. Exile any number of non-land permanents. So I'm going to put this, and this, and then this. And do I have anything else I can exile that's... Apparently I can't exile that. Can't exile that. Activate pacifism. So now pacifism goes on this. That comes back. That does trigger that, but it didn't trigger the other things coming back. So I should have not gotten rid of this. That would have gotten me a little bit more health. So there is a strategy here, but it only kind of works if this doesn't get stolen and this doesn't get stolen, and I don't just get overpowered by enemies. Next we have a game on Steam here called Gooberries, which seems like it's kind of a lower effort version of Slime Rancher. It doesn't look incredibly terrible as kind of a ranching simulator, and I'm not sure if I really want to play a farming sim that might get a little bit too close to Stardew Valley. But this also seems like it's maybe a little bit more focused towards kids, so maybe it'll be a little bit simpler. So there might be something here. It's early access, it's $14.99 discounted, it's English. I'll give it a chance and see what people have to say about it, but that it's really the visual polish that saves this game. Otherwise I would dismiss it. I probably still will dismiss it based on the kind of game it is. Yeah, I can block one of those if they weren't flying, and that's it. This was an example of a game that I would say I did not have fun with because it took way too long to lose, and that's a problem. Yeah, that is a big problem if you're spending an extra 10 to 20 minutes playing a game even though you know you're going to lose. I could have conceded that way earlier. Right, this looks like this might be a good starting hand. I don't know if this card is really as good as it seems. It's hard to tell on this card because you just don't know what you're stopping your opponent from playing. It could be something a lot, or it could be nothing at all. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Dragon Marked for Death version 3.0 update launches April 21st. Adds playable characters Oracle and Bandit. So I guess Dragon Marked for Death already existed as a game. I don't know if it's come to the West or not. It is kind of a weird looking art style for what looks like a kind of action beat 'em up platforming game. I'm not sure if it's a Metroidvania game by the looks of it. It looks interesting enough, but yeah. But the update here unfortunately is due to COVID-19. It will no longer be available for April 21st. They put the update at the bottom. That's why we're talking about it. Not because it's coming out, because it's not coming out. You'd think they would change the title at that point. You would say, update, this isn't happening anymore. Just to ease people's minds when reading these articles. Gamatsu has an article. Danganronpa 10th anniversary website opened. So on top of Danganronpa 1, 2, and V3 coming out on Android, more Danganronpa things are going to happen. I imagine that they're going to try and push it and promote it quite a bit as a series, as kind of like a competitor to the Persona series and a weirdo Japanese RPG game. That's certainly what I would try to do. Oh, this synergizes also, I guess. So, if we're going to play this as the companion, we want to keep these on the field always. Let's see. This is 9 with haste. Oh. This is not gonna go well. This is not gonna go well at all. How in the world did they get 9 counters? Gonna go ahead and just attack. That felt like a fast attack animation. 10 counters. Double Fine, I think we already talked about this, but Brutal Legends is like 10 years old and Psychonauts is like 15 years old. So